Welcome to an all-new episode of SJHL Insider. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Jeromy Corrigan, Director of Media for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Lots to get into this week. Just 12 days remaining in the SJHL regular season. Hard to believe the season has come and gone for the most part, but there's still lots to be determined in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League regular season. Of course, we will look at the past couple of days in the SJHL, preview the weekend. We'll also be joined by Carson Dobson of the Nipawin Hawks. Of course, the Hawks are coming off 2 wins this week already. They have a busy week ahead of them. But also because Carson Dobson was the 1,000th goal scorer as part of the KidSport Cup. Whether he knew about it when he scored that goal, we'll find out. But he'll join us on SJHL Insider. Before we get into the show, of course, we got to give a big shout out to our sponsors: Cantera Seed, SaskTel, Capital Auto Mall, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Chevrolet Tourism Saskatchewan, Direct West, SGI, SGEU, Great Western Young's Equipment, and RBC. Thank you so much for your support, because without your support, this show, SJHL Weekly, all the other projects we have within the SJHL would not be possible. With that being said, let's bring in our co-host, Clark Monroe. Clark, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Jeromy. Doing great. It's an exciting week. Like you said, it's like getting down to the nitty-gritty now for the season, and it's so many. The storylines never end. It's so fun to talk about every day.
Mm-hmm. And I just before we get into it, big shout out to yourself for filling in for me on Monday for SJHL Weekly. Yeah. Did a great job with those fellas.
Appreciate that. It was a fun
Jamie
time.
and Rory. So good job as always.
Yeah.
But let's get right into your favorite segment between the two shows.
Yes, between the two shows, this is my favorite segment, and you know what? You love it. It's the hat trick. Added.
Well, no, we didn't need to.
No, we didn't need to because we had them that time.
We got them.
We got them. Every week we do the SJHL Insider, we got to look back at the last couple of days of games. There was a few games each night over the last couple of nights. So, Jeromy, Tuesday night saw 3 games. You want to go through those?
Yes, let's start it. The Nipawin Hawks picked up a big 5-3 win over the Kindersley Clippers at home. The Flin Flon Bombers won 4-1 over the Yorkton Terriers. And the Notre Dame Hounds with a big 5-4 regulation win over the Weyburn Red Wings to move to within 7 points of the Wings for the 8th and final playoff spot, which of course we'll dive into later. Then on Wednesday night, the Nipawin Hawks, another victory, 4-1, and they are very, very close to clinching a spot in the SJHL postseason. We'll get to that in a bit, like I mentioned. A big win for the Humboldt Broncos, 3-2 over the Flin Flon Bombers in a shootout. Flin Flon gets 1 point. Humboldt gets 2. Of course, those two teams are battling it out for second place in the SJHL standings. And then finally, the Melfort Mustangs with a 4-3 win over the Kindersley Clippers in overtime. And as a result, the Melfort Mustangs have leapfrogged the Larange Ice Wolves for 4th in the SJHL standings. We'll talk about the standings in a brief moment. But when I look at the first 2 days of this week, Clark, the thing that stands out, there's 2 things that stand out, for me at least, when it comes to this so far. And that would be the Nipawin Hawks, 2 big wins in a very busy week for them, where they play 4 games, 2 big wins, 1 at home and 1 over the Melville Millionaires on the road. And then as well, that matchup between Humboldt and Flin Flon. Humboldt with a 3-2 shootout win. First time that Humboldt was in a shootout this year.
Oh, really?
Hard to believe.
Oh, fun fact.
But there you go. And they, you know what? They scored on both shooters, and it was a 2-shooter each shootout. So very quick. So despite not being in a shootout all year, Broncos, very good at the shootout. Yeah. But as a result, obviously, we've talked about those 2 teams battling out for second place. Because it was a 3-point game, that really isn't decided as of yet. We thought maybe we'd have some clarity after that game, but still up in the air a little bit when it comes to second place. But what stands out for you when it comes to Tuesday and Wednesday night's action? Yeah,
it's definitely Nipawin. I mean, we talked quite a bit on Monday about Nipawin's last 10 games and kind of how they had a really good opportunity over the last stretch to kind of put a nail in the coffin, so to speak, on the playoff race. And they hadn't quite done that. I think on Monday when we looked at it, they were 2-5-3 or something in their last 10 games. So to pick up these 2 wins, over opponents that they should need to get wins on right now. It's really huge for them, and you can almost see that X beside their name in the website now.
And you know what? To be fair, you talked about beating teams that you should beat because they're below you in the standings. The season series between Kindersley and Nipawin, I would argue one of the most entertaining season series between any two teams in the SJHL this season. There's been a lot of good hockey games, but you mentioned it. Winning games against teams that you need to beat, and they swept the season series against the Melville Millionaires, winning all 6 games.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a valuable 12 points.
It's huge. And, again, just for Nipawin, they've kind of been on a roller coaster, and now's the time that you kind of got to settle it down and get back to your game. And we'll talk to Carson. I'm really excited to hear from Carson today, Carson Dobson, just about kind of where their team's at and what everybody's thinking about. So that was a big one. And I guess the only other thing is Notre Dame. They just won't go away.
A wild game.
Yeah, exactly. They just won't go away. That win basically keeps their hopes alive again for at least another night or another couple of nights.
Yeah.
And they just, just when we thought they were struggling for a few games, they get this win, and it's not over yet. And, it just adds to the excitement for the next couple of games. But with that in mind, let's have a look at the standings for topic number 2 here, the hat trick. Thank you. But there has been some changes in the standings over the last couple of days with the results of the game. Just not a ton, but enough. So, Jeromy, let's have a look at the standings here. What do you see?
So, obviously, Battlefords has already clinched first place in the SJHL standings. Yes. They're going to be the number 1 spot. That is what we have confirmed for the SJHL postseason.
Boom.
Everything else, still up in the air.
Yep.
Just a couple of notes I do have, though, when it comes to the standings playoff scenario right now. We could see the Nipawin Hawks clinch a playoff spot tonight. Even though they are not on the ice tonight. They could clinch a playoff spot tonight if the Notre Dame Hounds lose in regulation to the Estevan Bruins.
Right.
Then we have 7 teams locked up for the SJHL postseason. The Flin Flon Bombers are only 1 point away from locking up the Sherwood division. So that stands out. And also, big game tonight for the Estevan Bruins because they're only 3 points away from locking up the Viterra division. So there's definitely still things for some teams that have already clinched playoff spots. They can also clinch their divisions as well. But maybe let's talk about, I think, when it comes to the standings, let's talk about 2 things that are almost finalized. Don't want to say are finalized, but almost finalized. Let's start with the 4 and 5 seed.
Yes.
The Melfort Mustangs, L'Orange Ice Wolves. It's still possible that one of those teams either drops down or moves up, but it's very, very, very slim. Like a team would have to win Melfort would have to win all their games. And for example, Humboldt would have to lose all their games for Melfort to pass Humboldt.
Right.
So like that matchup between Melfort and L'Orange is almost a guarantee for the first round of the playoffs. The question is, who's going to get home ice?
And I couldn't tell you. I mean, that's such a good battle right now. And the interesting part of it, and we talked about this, I think, last week and a bit on SJHL Weekly as well, is L'Orange's remaining schedule is what it is. We talked about it. They play, I think, Melfort one more time, right?
Tomorrow.
And Flin Flon twice. So very, very difficult last 3 games for them. Playoff mode from here on. Yep. And when we talked to Leith Olofsson on Monday about the Melfort Mustangs remaining schedule, he's like, we've been playing playoff hockey for 2 weeks already. Like every game for them has been really intense, and every opponent has been tough. And he said, so yeah, we've been gearing up. Like we're ready.
Yes. And the big thing too, when it comes to that situation you touched on, L'Orange only has 3 games left, but Melfort has a game in hand.
Yeah, exactly. They have a game in hand.
Melfort has a game in hand as well. So they're separated by 1 point, but you never know who's going to get home ice in between that almost guaranteed first round playoff series. And it's funny because they played twice just a week back.
You're right.
They're going to play tomorrow.
Well, that was exactly what Leith was saying. Like I think it was just coming off of a game against L'Orange, if I'm not mistaken, and he was like,
they're coming off the weekend,
weekend back at home and home. Yeah. So he's like, this is the team we want to play. We're ready for them. They're ready for us. It's going to be a great series.
I think that's the definition of playoff hockey right there.
Yeah.
That is going to be a very physical series between 2 teams that love to throw the body around. They know their systems. They work hard. And they both play, like watching the Melfort Mustangs and L'Orange Ice Wolves this year, they both kind of play that style that kind of fits very well in the postseason. So that is shaping up to be a very memorable and very good series in the first round in the SJHL playoffs. The other thing we should mention, obviously, is you touched on it, the Notre Dame Hounds, a big win over the Weyburn Red Wings in regulation. They scored the game-winning goal with under a minute to go in the third period.
Oh.
And, they couldn't give up any points to Weyburn in that game. So the fact that they were able to do that and pull that off is great if they do want a shot at potentially catching Weyburn. Notre Dame has the most games remaining out of any team left. They still have 7 games.
Yep.
7 games
14
in 12
potential
days.
points. 14 potential points.
That's it. That's good math, Clark.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
I passed grade 4. So.
So despite them being 7 points back of Weyburn, they have the 2 games in hand. They win those 2 games in hand, they're only 3 points back. These 2 teams do meet one more time.
Ugh.
They do meet one more time. Whether we get to that meeting and it's meaningful, to be determined.
Right.
Because Notre Dame has a home and home against Estevan this week, tonight in Wilcox, and then Saturday in Estevan. And then the Weyburn Red Wings are on the road this weekend looking to snap a 4-game losing streak against the Kindersley Clippers, who haven't been playing they've been playing actually pretty solid. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The last couple of weeks.
Well, we talked about it on Monday. Like, it's weird to say that they're on like a heater when they've, lost their last couple of games, but they've been playing such good hockey, and they've been fighting for their lives, even though technically, they're out. But that doesn't seem to matter to them. It seems like they've been playing their best hockey of the year over the last month or so. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to see, because we talked about it at length throughout the season, really, so far. A lot of their losses weren't blowouts. A lot of their losses were tight games, hard-fought games, and they just came up short more often than not, unfortunately. And now it seems like some of those games are just going their way now.
Sure.
And, they've won 4 of their last 10 games. That doesn't sound overwhelmingly like a big number, but it's a good number for them, and I think that they've been fighting and scrapping, and I love to see it. I'm cheering for Kindersley the rest of the way, honestly, and I just want to see them, finish the season strong.
Hey, but we do have to give a shout out to Kindersley.
Yep.
Because with that overtime loss last night, they actually won that season series for the I might pronounce it wrong, the Full Yards Cup.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Against the Melfort Mustangs.
How about that, hey?
I texted Matt this morning, Matt Barrett, friend of the show, loves when I say that.
Yeah.
I texted him this morning being like, well, each team won twice. What happens? And he's like, well, Kindersley won because they got the overtime point last night. So they did it.
Kudos to both teams for promoting that as much as they do, too, because I saw it all over social media.
It was awesome.
All year long. So that's really awesome to see that happen. And, awesome for Kindersley. I love it. You love to see it.
Yep. You do love to see it.
Let's move on to topic number 3. And Jeromy, I'm going to let you take this one because, it's interesting. I'm really curious. Let's go.
You forgot what it was.
I forgot what it was.
You forgot what the topic was.
You told me like 2 minutes before we started the show.
I did. It's Players of the Month, Clark.
Players of the Month.
You forgot about it.
I know these. We can do this.
Anyways, it's Players of the Month because they were announced yesterday on SJHL.ca. So maybe let's. How about I'll read them off.
Okay.
I'll read them off with the stats, and I'll get your thoughts. We just talked about this.
There's a lot happening before this show. Okay.
Oh yeah, actually, should we dive in? Maybe we'll dive into that after.
Okay.
After
a little behind the curtains.
Carson Dobson joins us.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that. Okay, so Players of the Month for February. We have to start with SGU MVP of the month, Kean Bell of the Balfour North Stars. One of the best months in junior hockey I've ever seen. Very impressive month. He had 13 goals, 9 assists, 22 points in 8 games.
Yeah.
Do the math. That's like 2.75 points a game.
Yeah, you would think like, oh, he played like 18 games? No, 8.
No. And which is crazy to think about because going back, actually, let's go back to Kindersley. Mm-hmm. Logan Linklater had a fantastic month, and so did Tylen Hilbig.
Right.
They were very close. I want to say they were at 19 and 18 points respectively in February. But the difference was Kindersley had played, I think, 3 or 4 more games than Battleford's.
Yeah, there's a couple teams that had like a 10, 11, 12 games.
Regardless, Kean Bell had a fantastic month, and I wrote about it in the article. It's funny because it all started on February 1st when he scored a hat trick at the SJHL MJHL showcase.
Yeah, he kind of started there and then just kind of kept that momentum going all month long. And yeah, you mentioned it. Linklater had 20 points and Hilbig had 17, but they both played 13 games.
Boom.
And it's so crazy. I think when we were talking about who's going to get the Players of the Month, Kean Bell had more goals than a lot of the kids had points in the league this month. It was one of those months, Jeromy. You mentioned it, one of the best months you've seen in your career. not only that, but it seemed like every game we're like, oh, he did that.
Yeah.
Oh, he did that. And it was just, just so impressive.
And we should mention he had a 6-point night where he had 5 goals against the Yorkton Terriers.
Oh, he did that?
He also did that.
Yeah.
Quickly moving on, SJHL goalie of the week was Jared Picklick of the Humboldt Broncos. A 5-0 record, a 2.36 goals against average, and a .929 save percentage. Direct West rookie of the month, Alexei Silvestri of the Flin Flon Bombers. 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points in 11 games played. Really stepping up with Flin Flon kind of dealing with a few injuries. And Super U Defenseman of the Month, Tynan Ewert to the Balfords North Stars, a goal and 10 assists, 11 points in 8 games played. Those players of the month were very similar to what the final players of the week were for the last week of February.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a good reason for that. We mentioned when we announced the players of the week that Silvestri had won 2 of the last 3 weeks for Rookie of the Week. So he's been lighting it up. And as you mentioned, he's been getting a great opportunity with all the injuries that they've had. He's been that one steady piece in their lineup that just seems to keep chugging. He's been given a great opportunity, and Mike Reagan seems to really trust him in those roles. So he's been playing great. The goaltending one was a bit of a debate. There was a few good performances this past month that we had to kind of decide between. But at the end of the day, Picklick 5-0, undefeated in the month. Really solid individual numbers. So
I think I described it as there were a few goalies with better numbers, but they didn't play as many games.
Right.
But then there were some goalies that played more games, but their numbers weren't as good. Right. And I proceeded to say, well, Picklick had Goldilocks numbers.
Yeah, he was the Goldilocks.
They were just right.
Of the month. And then Tynan Ewert, what do you say? I mean, the guy drives offense. He's the quarterback of that team, and he's just been so good all year long. And he's finally getting the individual recognition over the last few months, a couple months, I should say, because early on, it seemed like he was always just short, and then recently it's just been he's been taken over. Yeah,
it was pretty funny actually at the beginning of the year because with him, we had talked about we were surprised the first time he was named Defenseman of the Month.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden the dam kind of broke.
He just keeps going.
Just keeps going.
Yeah.
For sure. So congratulations to Keon Bell, SGU MVP of the month, Jared Picklick, SJHL goalie of the month, Alexei Silvestri, Direct West rookie of the month, and Super U defenseman of the month, Tynan Ewert of the Battleford North Stars. But now it is time to head to the video chat line where we're pleased to be joined by Carson Dobson of the Nipawin Hawks. There he is. Carson, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. How's it going today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
No, we really appreciate you coming on. You know what? I'll get right to it. Last night, a 4-1 win for you guys over the Melville Millionaires. What stood out for you guys in that win, and a big 2 points for you guys in the standings?
Yeah, we didn't play our best game, but we were able to get the job done. And that was a big 2 points for us in the playoff race. So, yeah, it was huge to get that win last night.
So for you guys, you won the 2 games this week. You're getting closer and closer to clinching a playoff spot. But I got to ask, for you, who's been with the Nipawin Hawks for the past couple of years, what has this season been like for you, just as this young team continues to grow and get better and better?
Yeah, it's been a good year for us. We're pretty much in a playoff spot now, or really close to securing one. So that's really good, what we're looking to do. And yeah, it's been awesome having this team and all the young guys pitching in, chipping in.
For sure. I want to ask you about your head coach and GM, Tad Kozin, because obviously last year with the coaching change halfway through the year, Tad took over as head coach and GM, and then this year was his first full year as head coach. I just want to get your thoughts on what it's like playing for Tad as your coach.
Yeah, it's really fun playing for Tad as a coach. He was just playing pro like 2 or 3 years ago, so in practice he's still really good and can teach you things, and he's pretty much the best player out there when he's practicing too. So it's fun to have him as a coach and just let him help you and work on your game and improve your game in certain areas.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he was a very good player in the SJHL, and he's definitely helping you guys become a very good hockey team in Nipawin. But a big reason why we wanted to bring you on today, Carson, is, and I don't know if you knew this at the time, but a couple of weeks ago when you guys played the Flin Flon Bombers, it was a tough 6-4 loss for you guys. But when you scored your second goal, you scored the 1,000th goal as part of the KidSport Cup for Sask Energy's Goals for KidSport program. At the time, I'm going to guess you probably didn't know that you scored that goal, did you?
Yeah, at the time I did not know that. No, it's cool that it just so happened to be the 1,000th goal of the season. But yeah, definitely at the time.
Carson, I'll ask you this. When it comes to the Goals for KidSport program, obviously all the SJHL teams kind of take part in this program. So what does it mean for you and I guess your teammates to take part in being able to give back to a program like KidSport?
Yeah, it's really good that they're donating back to KidSport for all the goals like that. I think it's really cool. And for sure, yeah, all the teams, I'm sure, are happy to be part of it and glad that we're doing that.
Yeah, and it's a good, of course, Goals for KidSport is a good way to get, the youth of Saskatchewan back into, playing sports around the province, whether it be hockey, basketball, you name it. Finally, Carson, I'll ask you this actually I should add to that. On March 10th, there will be a presentation for you when it comes to being awarded the 1,000th goal when it comes to KidSport prior to your guys' last home game. But finally, I'm going to ask you this. Big weekend for you guys. You're up in Flin Flon Friday, then you're in Melfort on Sunday to take on the Mustangs. So 2 big divisional games this weekend. What are you guys going to have to do to be successful this weekend?
We're going to have to play fast-paced, disciplined hockey, and hopefully we can get a couple points because Flin Flon could potentially be a playoff matchup with us. So hopefully we can go in there and let them know that we're not going to be an easy out if they do meet us in the playoffs. So, yeah, we're looking to have some good games this weekend coming up.
For sure. Well, Carson, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for helping deal with the technical difficulties we're having on our end. We appreciate your time. Best of luck this weekend and moving forward into the playoffs. And once again, congratulations on scoring the 1,000th goal as part of the Goals for KidSport program.
Thank you very much.
That is forward for the Nipawin Hawks, Carson Dobson. Great chat, of course. Like I mentioned, I didn't think he would have known when the 1,000th goal was going to be scored for the KidSport Cup.
Yep.
So not a surprise. It was a surprise to him that he scored it.
And I think the biggest takeaway from that interview for me is I just found my next investment idea.
Okay.
And that is if the Nipawin Hawks ever have a Calcutta shootout, I'm going to bid on Tad Kozin because apparently he's the best player on the organization. So you know what, Tad, I'm coming for you.
Well, I was going to there's a lot of good, I think, talented coaches that I think if they have Calcutta shootouts, I'm probably taking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Scott Barney's got NHL experience. You got a few guys around the league that I think could probably pot a couple of goals, but apparently Tad Kozin still got it. So
for sure. Like I mentioned at the tail end of that interview, I almost forgot to mention, there is going to be a presentation for Carson Dobson at the home game on March 10th for the Nipawin Hawks. I do believe it's their final game of the regular season, where he'll be, I think, presented with a medal of some sorts.
Fantastic.
For scoring the 1,000 goal as part of Goals for KidSport. Also, big night tomorrow night in Battleford because the Balfour North Stars, they were the team that won the KidSport Cup when it comes to most home goals scored at home. And they will be presented the KidSport Cup tomorrow night prior to their home game against the Humboldt Broncos. And I do believe going to be presented to them by SJHL Commissioner Kyle McIntyre.
Kyle McIntyre is going to be in the house?
I think Jacob's going to be there too.
Jacob Faith? Wow, this is going to be a star-studded evening.
So I think they'll be part of the presentation for the KidSport Cup for Battleford. So once again, congratulations to Battlefords for winning the KidSport Cup.
Yep.
And congratulations to Carson Dobson for scoring the 1,000th goal that ended the KidSport Cup.
He clinched it.
Because if he didn't score that goal,
could have kept going.
It could have. I don't think it would have.
Well, the thing is, because Battleford's played that night, they got 6 goals at the time that Carson scored the 4th for Nipawin.
Correct.
Which put it because they needed 10 that night.
So
did Battleford score another one after that? Was that the night they got 9?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it would have been over anyways, but
correct. Yeah,
Carson
it was.
got it.
There was 10 goals going into that night.
Right, and it ended up being
the whole
15.
time. Yeah, I was wondering.
14
no,
or
13.
something. 13.
We were just complimenting your math, and here we are. Back to 9 plus 4.
9 plus 4
is 13, Clark.
is 15. What's next?
Don't come. Hopefully, people aren't coming to SJHL Insider for.
This isn't SJHL mathematicians. It's SJHL Insiders. So.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. As we always do before we wrap up the show for the week, we always have to look at the weekend ahead. Before we do. We got to talk about the SJHL raffle, Clark. I don't know if you've heard of it.
It's heating up.
It is.
Yeah.
It literally, it's heating up outside.
It's warming up.
And as a result, there's no better time like the present to get your tickets for the SJHL raffle, where you can win a brand new Polaris side-by-side courtesy of the SJHL. Tickets 1 for $25, 3 for $60, and 10 for $100. There's only 5,000 tickets available, so get your tickets today. SJHLraffle.ca. Tickets are available until April 23rd. The draw will be done on this show, April 27th. Get your tickets today. And I know for a fact that our good friend, Director of Marketing and Promotions, Jacob Faith, during the playoffs, he'll be out and about selling tickets for the SJHLraffle.ca. So maybe you don't like purchasing stuff online.
Maybe.
You can buy in person.
Yep.
Because Jacob will be out and about selling tickets.
There's options. And we have a fancy new commercial out for that as well.
We have a fancy new commercial out.
Fancy new.
For the Polaris raffle.
Yeah. It's great. Great job on that. Was your voice is on it.
My voice is on it.
It's an exciting commercial.
Unfortunately, you got to hear my voice more. All right, so let's get right into the weekend preview. 4 straight days. Well, I guess if you include Tuesday and Wednesday, it's like 6 straight days of hockey. But 4 straight days of hockey starting tonight. Big one in Wilcox as the Notre Dame Hounds play host to the Estevan Bruins. 4 games on Friday. The Yorkton Terriers visit the Melville Millionaires. The Highway 10 rivalry renews. I'm sure fans in that region, though, wish their teams had a bit of a better season. But I digress. It's still going to be a great matchup when those two teams meet. Humboldt at Battleford, home and home this weekend. Nipawin at Flin Flon, as we touched on with Carson Dobson. That should be a great matchup. And the big one too, L'Orange at Melfort, on Friday. Then on Saturday, the rematch between Melville and Yorkton. Note the start time. 2:00 in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon hockey at the Westland Insurance Arena in Yorkton. And then Estevan hosts Notre Dame for the second half of that home and home. Humboldt hosts Battleford for the second half of their home and home. And then Weyburns and Kindersley looking to snap a 4-game losing streak as they begin 2 straight games against the Clippers at the West Central Event Center. Then 2 games on Sunday, both afternoon games. Nipawin at Melfort at the Northern Lights Palace. Worth mentioning, if you're in the area, I just saw on Twitter before the show, free admission.
What?
Shut the front door.
We gave a big shout out the other week.
So big shout out to Melfort Mustangs.
Absolutely. We gave a big shout out to the teams that are making those initiatives. And Melfort must have heard us because I know Matt Barrett watches the show. So clearly we influenced Matt Barrett to do this. Great job, Matt.
Well, as they say in the biz, we're influencers.
We are. Hashtag influencers.
Something like that. And then the other game on Sunday is
SJHL Influencers. New name of the show.
That's our spin-off show, actually, in the offseason.
Yeah, there you go.
The second game on Sunday is Weyburn at Kindersley, 4:00. Should mention Nipawin and Melfort at 3 on Sunday. As I always ask you to wrap up the show, Clark, what are you keeping your eye on for this weekend?
I'm not looking too far.
Perfect.
I'm going tonight. I'm going Estevan Notre Dame. That's
Sweet.
such an important game for how the standings are going to shake down. So I'm looking at that one, and I've also, due to my alumniism of the Bruins, I've put some bids in on their jersey auction.
Showing some bias.
Just want to shout out the yeah, somebody outbid me, please. But anyways, just wanted to give a shout out. But I am looking at that game tonight because, again, Notre Dame's fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Estevan's trying to clinch their division.
Yeah.
Both teams have something to fight for tonight. And it's outside of a few great matchups later on in the week, I can't look farther than
it could, if Notre Dame wins tonight in regulation, only 5 points back going into the weekend with a game in hand.
It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. So,
and here's the thing that makes it even more interesting, too, when it comes to the whole Notre Dame playoff situation is if they go on a little bit of a run, Notre Dame's the team that plays the very two last games of the season.
Right.
Sunday at home against Melville, and then the Tuesday, which was the makeup game from that first weekend of the season against Humboldt on the Tuesday. Yeah. Are those games going to mean something?
It'd be fun if they did.
It would be a lot of fun if it did.
It'd be fun if they did.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
For me, Humboldt and Battleford are going to be amazing.
Oh, for sure.
Two of the top teams in the league. I mean, Humboldt's had Battleford's number a little bit this season. Mm-hmm. They've won 3 of the 4 games in the season series.
Right.
With that being said, the last 2 times that Humboldt beat Battleford, the first time Battleford was missing their entire top line. The second time was the Martinsville game where they had 2 of their guys, 2 of them come back, but still have to think they were pretty much under the weather a little bit, but that's part of hockey. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. I'm curious, though, for Friday night's game, just because I think I brought this up with you, that Battleford's record at the Access Communications Arena is second to none.
Yeah.
They haven't lost a game in regulation at the Access Communications Arena. They've only lost 1 game in general at the ACC.
Unreal.
And that was a shootout loss to the Melfort Mustangs. October 14th. Mm-hmm. Only reason why I know that, yours truly was in attendance.
Hey, you were there.
So, as a result, I will be not invited to any Battleford playoff home games.
Yeah. Stay away.
They will not want me in there.
Stay away.
No. But as a result, I'm curious to see how Friday's game. That home and home will be excellent.
Home and home is going to be excellent.
It always is. The other game I would like to pay attention to, that I'm going to pay attention to, obviously, is Laurent and Melfort.
It's going to be a great one.
It is. Let's call it a spade. It's a playoff preview.
Yeah.
It's a playoff preview. These teams are going to meet in the first round of the playoffs. If Laurent can pick up a regulation win, they're right in the mix again for home ice advantage in that first round playoff series. Now, if Melfort picks up a regulation win, that pretty much, for the most part, puts the nail in the coffin when it comes to, home ice advantage, because Melfort would be 3 points up with a game in hand, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's a playoff preview. It's going to be great. So, lots of great, entertaining hockey games this weekend in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. As always, if you want to stay up to date with everything in the SJHL, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there, slow and steady. And
subscribe.
Subscribing's free. That's the other thing. Subscribing's free. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Big shout out again to all of our sponsors: Cantera Seed, SaskTel, Capital Auto Mall, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Chevrolet, Tourism Saskatchewan, Direct West, SGI, SGEU, Great Western, Young's Equipment, RBC. Thank you so much for your support, because again, without your support, these shows would not be possible. 13 games in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League over the course of the next 4 days. If you can't make it out to your local rink, you can catch all the action on Hockey TV, where a subscription is just $29.99 a month right now, and there's no better time to get it than now, because the playoffs is just around the corner. So it's going to be a great weekend of hockey in the SJHL. Make sure to get out to your local rink. For Clark Monroe, my name's Jeromy Corrigan, and this has been another great episode of SJHL Insider. And enjoy the games this weekend, everyone.